All right, today we're talking about campaigns. There is a lot to talk about on campaigns, so we're going to break this up into several videos to go over all the stuff. Otherwise, I would just bore you with in a forever long video. Anyway, so we're back in the Breckworks account. So we're going to go into campaigns, and today we're just going to talk about some of the basic concepts of a campaign. So we're just going to talk about more of the kind of the normal things you do with a campaign, and then we'll go into some of the extended features. So the first thing I'm going to do is within the campaign list, and we kind of went over this in the overview video, but you've got a calendar view, so you can view a calendar of sent campaigns or draft campaigns, and you can see kind of the legend here. So kind of refer to what the colors are, and then I can navigate around to the different months and kind of get a good idea of what those campaign or what it looks like. We're just going to go back into the list view though. And in the list view, I'm going to just kind of go over the new campaign screen. Won't actually create a new campaign, but we'll walk through that, and then I'm going to go into an existing one. So just kind of take away some of that excitement. But anyway, you kind of know what to expect. So we're going to go into here. I'm going to select a standard campaign. I'm not going to implement, or we're not going to enable the multivariate campaign for right now. We'll just leave that for later. So you go into a standard campaign, you can pick from a number of different templates that either we have built for you or that you have built on your own. So you can also create campaign or templates that are proprietary to your needs. Otherwise, we could just start from scratch. And then when we start from scratch, we always try to give you at least something to go off of. So we'll give you some basic information here or some basic layout. And I can go to the different view modes to kind of see what that looks like. So I could put in a name, a description of what that is, and then for the audience, I would pick which audience. And for the Breckworks account, we have two. You would typically only have one audience in your account. You can use groups and segments and whatnot to isolate different targeted groups of people within your audience. But in this one, we would have two. So I could select customer, select this campaign, put in the name of my campaign description, and click add. We're not going to click add for right now. We're just going to go into an existing campaign, and I can kind of walk you around some of the stuff. Now we're going to have a dedicated video on some of the editing features of this. So I'm just going to kind of give you an overview of the different areas of the campaign in this video, and then we'll have a specific video on the editor features. So over on the left-hand side, these are kind of your tools, and if you haven't noticed by now with some of the other videos, a lot of our stuff is laid out the same way. So whether you're in a journey editor or a form editor or landing page or what have you, the same layout applies to all those different areas. That way it's really intuitive for you. So starting from the left, we have the various elements that you can add to an email. Whether that be the kind of the layout stuff with the structure with rows or the various elements that you can add in. And at the time of this video, these are the elements that are available. As things progress, we'll be adding more and more to this. So then you have the header information. So the header information is who the email is from, so that from text. So if I were to send you an email, then my from text would say Jason Johnson. My from email would say Jason J at whatever email. So in this case, we have Breckworks. That's just the name that they will see. The email address will be hello@breckworks.com. Now, the from email address, depending on how you set up your reply tracking or your reply emails, that from email address may be what they reply to. Or you could set up the campaign so all the replies will come to Tarvent. I would highly suggest using that, because then we will filter out all those out of office emails, the bounce emails. We'll filter all that stuff and process those. The bounces we process as bounces. The out of office we just delete. And then any normal actual replies, we can then forward those onto you. They will also show up in the conversation area of each contact that replied, but we can forward those on. So the nice thing is, by setting up your reply so that it comes to us, we filter out all those out of office. But depending on how those replies get set up, this from email may be where they reply to. Custom, you could set up a standard domain. So if I select breckworks.com, then in here I would just put in hello. So I could say hello@breckworks.com. What this means is that this domain has been configured in our system with all the email authentication protocols. So it has DKIM set up, it has SPF configured, it works with your DMARC policy. We've already verified all that stuff so you get the best deliverability possible. So we always suggest doing this and setting up these custom domains. And you would do that in account, and you would set up a sending domain, it's called. So you'd set up a sending domain for that. We'll have another video on the sending domain, but you would set up that sending domain. Once that's all configured, then you can use that. Otherwise, if you use custom, then we can go back to using a custom and just type it in manually. Anyway, it's always best to use a standard domain that is configured in our system, just because you're going to get the best deliverability possible. Now, the subject line. Subject line is pretty simple. It's just the subject line that they see when they receive the email. So with that, we always suggest keeping the subject line short, to the point, and kind of match the feel that you're looking for, whether that be sad or energetic or what have you. You can kind of manage that yourself. And then we also have artillery in here. So there's a couple things. So we have emoticons, or emojis that you could put in. So you can add emojis to it, kind of draws attention when everybody else just has text. So it's kind of a nice thing to do. And we have quite a few different ones that you can add in here. So you can add in emojis. You can also add in personalization. So I can select something from the contact. This comes in really handy when you are maybe, say, a big corporation, you have a lot of agents that have individual customers. So per contact, you can keep the agent's name and email address, and then you can personalize the from, and then you can also personalize the subject. So it has your agent's name in the subject line of the email and saying, hey, Jason, this is an email from John, your agent. So you can make it look very, very personalized for that user. Otherwise, you can pull information that you may need in here. So you'll see this personalization icon. You'll see this all over the place that we allow you to personalize. Then the last thing we have is artillery. So if you just have no idea what to put in for a subject line, then you can use artillery, which integrates with ChatGPT and AI system that will help you generate a subject line based on keywords. So you can put in keywords, ask it to generate, and it will generate that subject line that you can click to insert, and it'll insert that in here. Now the pre-header. Pre-header, some people know what it is, some people don't. The pre-header is just what shows up under the subject line, like in Outlook. It's the text that shows up under the subject line. If you don't put in a pre-header, then the email client, whether it be Outlook or Gmail or Thunderbird or whatever email client you're using, they will read the content of the email, and they're going to pull the first text from the content of the email. Otherwise, if you use a pre-header, you could put that information in, and your pre-header won't show up in the email, but it will show up under the subject line in the list of emails within the email client. That way you can make it look however you want. You get to control how that looks, but it won't show up in the email itself. So it's kind of nice. You could put in here that maybe it's 30% off this week. So something like that. So you could put in something that draws even more attention, instead of just having just the subject line. So kind of up to you. So that's how you would set this up. And then we can go into our share settings. So the share settings is our way of allowing you to control what the share would look like if they were to share this email on social media. So if you're going to share it on social media, you can control what the image looks like. You can control the title and the description, so that when they share it on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, then you control what that looks like for when your customer shares it. So it's kind of a nice thing to be able to set up. And you can do various things. You can have them just link right to the campaign. Otherwise, if you have a static web page that is set up to kind of replicate this email, you can have it so it'll share that static URL. Maybe it goes to a blog or something. So you're going to send out an email that refers to the blog. Then I can use a custom URL and point it to that blog, and it'll pull the information from there. So these share settings work in conjunction with the social share. So the social share, you drag this in to your content, and then if I go ahead, I can actually just drag them in really quick. So I can share this. You can control this, and we'll go into more of this later. But you'll be able to configure the settings, and then it uses those share settings to control what it looks like when it gets shared in those areas. So then we go to the links. Links just read all the links within the email, and then it'll let you know what links are problematic. So now in this case, you'll see that it looks like the email's jumping, but what it's doing is just moving the editor to where the link is. So you'll see that this is hovering over this purchase on Etsy. So you can see that it's highlighted there, where this one goes up to the Breckworks image at the top. Now we'll tell you, we put this as a warning, and the reason we put it as a warning is sometimes, depending on where this link goes to, some servers we can't check because we'll check it and it won't come back with a positive response. It may come back with what we call 301 or redirect response. So it may come back saying it's going to redirect you to a different URL. So there's a number of cases where the URL may be valid, but because of how the server is returning to us, we show it as a warning. We're not going to show as a failure because some will show as a failure when they're really not. So this is our best guess. We'd always say that you should check these just to make sure on your own, but we're going to do our best guess at whether those links are valid or not. So it's just a way to really scan through your email and check all that stuff for you. Then we go into the settings. So the settings, there's a lot of stuff in here, but it's all pretty understandable, hopefully. So we'll see. So the track settings or the tracking options, this kind of goes in line with the attribute tracking. This goes in line with GDPR and CCPA and some of the other privacy laws that are out there. So depending on your privacy policy that you make available for your customers, you may need to turn some of these things off. Most likely you won't, but we give you that option to turn those features on or off to abide by your privacy policy. Then the analytics integration, you could turn that on, and this is for Google Analytics. So we have the standard UTM variables that are available for Google Analytics. Those same variables are used by many other different analytics packages like Adobe's analytics package. But if you don't want to use these and you have some proprietary ones, then you can always put in your own. So you can manage that and put in your whatever information you need to. Then there's also custom headers. So custom headers, how that gets used is you can put in a header. That way, if somebody calls you for customer service, then you may be able to have them look at the email header or forward the email to you as an attachment, and you could see that header information. The other thing is if you have replies going to your system and not through us, you can read those headers and do other things. This is mainly a much more technical reason that you would use these, but it does allow some very cool automations that you can do on your side, not within our system, but on your side that you would be able to do. Now that reply handling that we talked about. So you do reply direct. So the email is optional. So if you have reply direct, then it's going to take the from email, or you could do reply direct here and you could put in a reply email address, and that's where all the replies will go to most of the time. Some email servers will still look at the from and take that. So it really just depends on the mail server. Most mail servers will take what we call the reply to. That's just a header, but it'll take the reply and it'll send the replies there. Now, the other way you could do it, which we suggest doing, is you could track replies and then forward to whatever email address. When you track those replies, again, we're going to process those bounces as bounces. we're going to filter out all the out of office emails, and we look at those in multiple languages. So it's not just in English or Spanish or some of the basics. We look at those in a lot of different languages. So we will take those, filter out all of the what we would deem kind of junk replies, and then the valid replies, we will forward those off to you, whatever email address that you pick. So we suggest doing this. Now, the reason you wouldn't want to do it, is if when they click reply, they're going to see this kind of weird looking email address. It's going to have a bunch of characters, and then it's going to say at trvt.io. So it's going to have these weird mumbo jumbo characters when they click reply in Outlook. That is the downside of having this, because it has to come to our system. We have to know who it is and all this fun stuff. So it's going to have to come back to us, and we're going to track it. If you use a reply direct, then it's going to have a more friendly email address. So you get the friendly email address, you just don't get the filtering and the bounce processing for those reply emails. So it's really up to you which one works best. Most people like to use this approach. Some people, especially more enterprise customers that want total control over that customer experience, they're going to want to use the reply direct, and they will manually handle those bounces on their side. Now, the mail domain. So this gets a little bit technical, but the mail domain, if you are using a strict DMARC policy, so strict SPF or strict DKIM policy, then the from domain has to match the mail from domain. You can think of it as like the address on the outside of an envelope of regular snail mail. So the inside envelope may say from, grandma and grandpa, but the outside of the email may say from, Jason Johnson. I'll just keep using my name. So it may use a different name on the outside of the envelope. That's going to be a more formal name. So that name sometimes has to match depending on your DMARC policy. That gets into far more technical things, but if you need to support very strict DMARC policies, then that's where you would use a custom mail domain. And that again is something you would go into account in your domains, and you would set up a custom mail domain, which requires some DNS stuff and whatnot. So anyway, it kind of gives you an idea of what the mail domain is for. Now we have operational email. So operational email, depending on your plan, you may have this available or may not. But the operational email, what that is this has nothing to do with marketing. This is you're sending out an email to maybe say that your hours for the day have changed for some reason or whatnot. Then if you're doing that, then yeah, you're going to have to send out an operational email. In that case, the email will go out to even your people that have unsubscribed, because they're unsubscribing from your marketing, but normal business communication, you're still able to do that. They're not opting into a regular email. It's just operational emails. So in that case, you can check this box and it will send to your opt-out people. So just so you know that that's available, use that with caution. If we see that if something is getting abused, then we may have to get on the phone and talk to you. But anyway, then the last thing that we're going to go over today is our checklist. So the checklist just gives you a quick overview of everything that we look at within the email to make sure it's good to go. If everything is good to go, you'll see the send button enabled. If everything is not good to go, you will not see it enabled. I like it personally because it's just nice to get that reassurance that everything is checked off and I'm good to go. So it's just that extra set of eyes, in this case, the software, but it's just an extra set of checks to make sure that you're ready to go, and gives you just that extra bit of confidence that you're ready. So that kind of gives you a basic understanding of this. I didn't go into everything. We'll have to go over this in other videos. I apologize for this being a longer video. There are a lot of features in here. And so I'm trying to break this up as much as I can, talk slow. So hopefully if this bored you and I talk too slow, you know how to speed it up in YouTube. So with that, I hope this answers a lot of your questions on some of the basics of a campaign. We'll get into more details in future videos. Until then, have a great day.